So, hello, everybody. I'm Cindy Myers of YourEnergyHealer.com, and we're going to get going with the animal and emotions talk. It was going to be a webinar, but you just got my face today. So, what we're going to talk about, well, before we get going with that, I do need to go over a little disclaimer. If you're having a medical emergency with your pet, please call your veterinarian. I know it's hard to get in these days. So, what I can do for you while you're waiting to get in with your vet is to clear trapped emotions, rebalance your energy, send good healing energy to your pets, um, clear their chakras, which supports their natural healing abilities. And so that can buy you time while you're getting into the vet. So that's what I can do for you if you're having a medical emergency with your pet. So, what I thought I'd talk about today is something a little different instead of talking about the emotions and all the different things that animals go through. Um, I've been teaching an introduction to animal communication class lately with Jen Weigel, and really a lot of fun. We're just having a ball, and what this class is reminding me of is what it was like when I first communicated with an animal, because every pretty much everybody in this class is very intuitive, but they haven't really realized that they can connect with an animal intuitively. And what that feels like and what that experience is like. And so I give them a really simple technique that they connect with, and it's all done on Zoom just like this. So it's a lot of fun, and it really validates that yes, they can do it. But what this has reminded me of is my first time, and that I connected with an animal that wasn't my dog. And because when you connect with your own animal, you just think it's because you're so bonded with them. At least that's what I thought. And but this story is about connecting with a wild animal and intuitively, and how powerful that was. And although it took me years later before um, I got into it, uh, and started really uh, uh, focusing in and practicing the intuition and building the skills, it was still such a powerful moment. It planted the seed. And why I think this is important and why I brought it up for today is when I talk a little bit about some of the techniques that you can do for your pet, it shows you that you just having the intention and being open to trying is powerful in itself. You don't have to have a ton of classes and a ton of experience to be able to connect with an animal and provide them support. And you just have to be willing to trust and believe and give it a try. So, so with that, I'm going to tell you about the story of when I had my dog Rusty, and I wished I had the screen, my presentation, because it was a cute picture of my dog Rusty that I had back then. He's an Australian Shepherd, and he and I were really bonded and really close. I rescued him at 18 months old, and I was also working on my master's degree at the time in uh, uh, counseling with a emphasis in depth psychology, and I was really opening my intuition and my right side of my brain because I'd been working as an engineer up until then and studying all the math and science and very nerdy stuff. And so the right side of my brain was kind of dormant until I really got into, but my intuition was starting to kick in then too. And I really needed to start understanding it better because actually my my human intuition was really going on strong at the time, where my empathic abilities were feeling everybody's physical illnesses and discomforts as well as their emotions, but I didn't realize I could really connect intuitively with an animal. But while I was in this master's program, I discovered a book written by an animal communicator, and it wasn't a how-to book. It was just her experiences, different experiences in connecting with animals. And I didn't have time to. I thought you don't have time to read this. You have all this stuff to read for your master's degree that you don't have time to catch keep up with that. What you have no business buying this book is what I told myself. But I just kept getting drawn to this book, and I thought, oh, what the heck, I'm going to buy it. And of course, I left my homework aside and read it. And I just thought it was so cool to be able to do somebody to connect with animals intuitively like that. So I went home and I tried it with my dog Rusty, and of course it worked. It was really cool. But again, I just thought it was because we were so bonded. It was just he was my dream. The dog had always dreamt of, and so I just thought it was that. Anyway. So one day we're jogging on the beach, and it was the day after a really bad storm. And the water was really rough, and the seas were, and the tide was super high. Uh, but and you could see all the debris and everything after this storm. And we're jogging up the beach, and we come across this caution tape that was surrounding a baby seal pup, and the pup was just crying and crying and crying. It was just really besides itself. And there was a worker there, a marine biologist or somebody that comes and helps when animals, marine animals are in at risk or danger or whatever. So he had put the caution tape around the seal pup, and he was telling people that the seal pup is fine. It was just really exhausted after the storm and having to swim and deal, try and survive in the storm. His mother had put him up way up high in the sand, away from the water, and she was out fishing. And he said she'd be back around dawn or not dawn, dusk, later in the day, and pick him up after she was done fishing and doing her work in providing nourishment for the seal pup and herself. But seal pup was fine, so just leave it alone because it needed rest. But the seal pup didn't know that. It was just like crying for its mom and scared, witless. And I thought, boy, wouldn't it be nice to be able to tell the seal pup what was happening? And I just felt so bad for it. And I looked down at my dog and I thought, maybe we could do what that book said to do. And it's like, just think to the animal what you wanted to know. So I tried it. I said, what the heck? What do we have to lose? So I said, let's connect to the seal pup, Rusty. And and I repeated what the marine biologist told us, that the seal pup was safe, and that his mother would come back for him, and his job was just to get some rest. And just as I thought, just it's okay, you should close your eyes and get some rest, it did it. He closed his eyes and fell sound asleep. And I looked at Rusty and I went, "Oh my god, I think we did it." It was one of the coolest experiences, because the seal pup went from crying its eyes out, and just in those few seconds, maybe 30 seconds of just repeating that it was safe, it's okay, and you can close your eyes and get some rest, and your mom will come back for you. You saw it stop crying, and its head kinda, how a baby starts getting or us, me in my chair, you start getting the droopy eyes, and it just fell sound asleep. And I stood there with my dog for a little bit, I don't know, another 5 minutes or so, just kind of thinking good thoughts to the seal pup and seeing if it would wake up. Because I thought, well, if it wakes up, I want to try it again and help it stay calm. But it didn't wake up. And so I thought, okay, we need to keep going on our jog. And we did so, and on the way back, I checked in on it, and it was still sound asleep. So I don't know what happened, was didn't stick around the hours later, because it would have been several hours later when mom would come back. But I think we were able to help that seal pup. And that just really stuck with me. That was the first experience of communicating intuitively with an animal, not my own, a wild animal, and getting validation of seeing it. But of course, my my doubting brain thought, oh, that was just a coincidence and all this other stuff. But a part of me knew that we really did it. And and unfortunately it took me, well, not unfortunately, it just life and other things, other priorities were going on. I forgot about it. I didn't even pursue or try to connect with another animal or another species other than my dog Rusty for years. But it was actually several years later that when I connected with two wild ducks, that was really my takeoff into really getting more serious about practicing and exploring this animal communication world and doing energy work on them and just loving every second of it. But your first time is always really magical. And I think the power of it again was I didn't have a clue what I was doing when I was reaching out to that seal pup. It was just the intention and it was a heartfelt connection and it was thinking from my mind to the seal pup. It wasn't an outside voice thing. It wasn't talking to them. That is a distraction, especially for a wild animal. They hear the voice and that's scary. But if you think to them intuitively, that's something they get and they hear that. So if you want to practice and try anything, especially with your own, even and with your own animals too, in some of the techniques I'm going to talk about in a second, about what you can do to help calm your pet, help them out, or just enjoy an increased bond with them. All you have to do is think it to them. And then there's some hand physical touching you can do with your own pets. But of course, if you're practicing with an animal like the little ducks that that I happened to come across outside my mailbox one day, you think to them, or the seal pup. But we couldn't touch. That was I don't encourage people to touch wild animals. It's not safe for you, probably, and probably not a good idea for them. But especially for babies. But if you do touch with your pets, there's just a slightly different touch that you can do with them that will increase your bond, help calm them. So we'll talk about that now. And I wish I had my slide again, but I don't. So we're gonna make do with just visual. So if you have so if you're wanting to do some uh, connecting with your pet. Your dog or cat is anxious. Maybe you're going to the vet and they're nervous about that, or they're not feeling good. One of the things you can do is just breathe. It's really important to breathe fully. We forget when we're anxious. We breathe even more shallow than normal. We don't tend to breathe really fully when we're not thinking about it. So we want to really take a moment and do some really full deep breaths. And then you just want to spend a couple minutes with your pets. One, it helps you, it takes you about 2 minutes to calm yourself down and get into that quieter state. So while you're petting your dog or cat, and I encourage you to do real light touch, a light pet instead of a more massage deeper pet. It's different technique and the massaging kind works on muscles and that's common. That can be relaxing, but it can also be stimulating. The more gentle, the very light touch is actually triggering the calming system. And that's what we want to do when our pets are anxious. So we want to do a really light touch and you can just move your hands all over. Go to where they really like it. Usually the chest is a good place. One, they can see what your hand is doing. If you have a new animal, a new dog, you just rescuing somebody or you're fostering an animal and you're building a trust, the chest is usually a good place begin with. One, it's the heart chakra too. You want to stimulate and build the bond from the heart chakra. So the chest is a good place. If they like their ears massaged, that's a really good place. And if they're willing, I'd like to, and if you have an animal that is uh sick and not feeling well, I like to work the first chakra, which is at the base of the tail. So a real light touch down at the base of the tail. And then I work up the spine because that first chakra one supports the immune system. Also, it is their survival center. So their will to live can is where we want to boost if they're really not feeling well. So you want to go down to that root chakra and just again do light touches, breathe in, and I picture white light coming through the crown and then out through my hand. So that's and it's very powerful. And again, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to take a ton of classes. Just trust and be willing to try it, and you'll see that it does really help your animal. So I encourage you to do try this at home. Do try it with your pet, and it's good to do it with them when they're not when they're feeling good, because uh it creates a Pavlovian response. So when they don't feel good, their subconscious feels that gentle touch, that breathing, that white light coming in, and they know more quickly how to direct it and how to get that calming chemical going. It's that Pavlovian response that you're building every time you do it. So I encourage people to do this just as a matter of course. I do it with my dogs and some of my alpacas that like to be touched. I do it on them. And one, by doing that with the alpacas that don't mind getting touched, they usually want more touches. So it's a positive feedback loop because I get to enjoy it as well. And that builds the trust. And when I do have to hold them, like if the vet is here or we're having to handle them or somebody's here to help give shots or trim nails, um, that helps keep them calm while we're having to handle them. So again, that the tea touches can really help, even with an animal that has never experienced before. I've had one almost fall asleep from, and they went from being absolutely petrified to being held to zened out by doing the breathing and doing these gentle touches. So I encourage you really to give this a try. It's really powerful stuff. And again, you don't have to be an expert at it to begin doing it. So what happens if you're doing it? What might you see uh, to know to get some validation that it's working? Well, while you're doing the breathing and the light touches, or again, if you're working with an animal like the seal pup, and I'm not touching them, you'll see quite often that their eyes soften. Like, get from panicking to, oh, okay, I feel a little better. They may give you eye contact if you're working on a pet that you are touching, they may reach around and give you a gentle kiss. And it's usually a different kind of a kiss than your normal slurpy kind of kiss. It's usually a very gentle, maybe one or two. And they quite often will kiss the back of my hand or my cheek. And it's amazing. It's been with many animals that I've experienced that from. And they quite often will lean into you more. Once in a while, they'll reach out and ask you to hold their paw as well. So, and the other thing you might see is they'll yawn. Quite often will yawn, lick their lips. Um, and sometimes they pass gas. I have to warn you, they can't do that. And a lot of times they just lay down and fall asleep. So, but it's very calming. So you do try it at home. I think you'll enjoy it as much. Again, you both win because by doing the full breathing, you relax, and you know what happens too is they respond by sending out their own calming energy, and so it becomes this wonderful positive feedback loop of you giving them calming energy and they reply with it. Especially with my alpacas, they can pump out the most beautiful energy you ever did want to feel. By doing energy work on them, I feel like I had a day at the spa. That's how wonderful and powerful it is. So, before we get going on some of the demos, if you'd like some help with your pet, if you're having some issues and maybe not able to get into a vet right away, if you haven't worked with me before, I encourage you to try my starter package. It's a 45-minute phone consult when we do a lot of clearings of trapped emotions, balance their energies, communicate with them, and I give you some more tips that are specific to what's going on for you and your pet. And then you also get a 15-minute follow up. If you worked with me before, usually the 15-minute quick cleanse is really the best for animals because they don't have a very long attention span. So we don't usually need the 45 minutes after the initial consult. So the quick cleanse, and you get 4 15-minute sessions with that package. And we can get a lot of clearing, and they can usually get up to 2 pets cleared in that 15 minutes even. That's how much time your pets really need in getting their energy cleared and rebalanced. And finally, I'm going to be back on doing the healing circles. So this Saturday, we'll be having one at noon Pacific time. And you should be getting an email about that tomorrow on how to register for it. And also, like I mentioned, I've been doing this introduction to animal communication class. So if you haven't tried it before, you might want to check it out. It's all on Zoom, and Jen Weigel is the host and coordinator of it. So I'll give you the link in the follow-up email, or I'll send you all an email about it on how to connect with it. And or you can email me if you're interested and want more information. I can share that with you on how to sign up for that. And it'll be December 3rd is the next one. We keep selling them out, so we keep adding more. So this is the next one that's coming up, and hopefully we'll be doing even more throughout next year. So now I will go ahead and, oh no, I don't think I can share the animal pictures. Oh, poop. That's the most fun part. Let's see. So Sonia, they got some
Maybe you can
chat.
show the animal, well, I guess you don't have a hard copy to show us next year.
No, I don't. I don't. Let's see. Let's see. Sonia wrote, when I first met you, I'd asked if you could get in touch with an eagle, which is known as E8. He had a hard start to life, and I think he's still around and okay. Any thoughts on him? You know, it's a little hard for me to connect with wild animals. Um, because there's a whole lot of eagles out there. So without a picture or something like that, there's a lot of there's just too many animals for me to get a direct line on. That's just kind of a challenge. Let's see, and Jenny. Uh, I have a direct. Okay. So I had a direct message, so not to be shared with others. All right. So I'm gonna try it one more time. Know why this isn't working. Share sound, optimize for video. Nope, it's not seeing my desktop. Well, heck. All right. Well, I can see the picture, if even if you all can't. So sorry about that. Nicole, are you on? Yeah, Nicole, you're on.
Yes, I
Uh,
am.
Hi, Nicole. And
Hi,
I do have a picture of your dog in front of me, which I need to connect with them. What's the name of your dog though?
Ringo.
Ringo. And what's going on? Is there something specific going on with your dog, Ringo?
Well, he does have Addison's disease, and he just had bladder stones removed.
Hmm. Okay.
Um, he's a very anxious dog as well.
Okay, so those light touches would be of real benefit to him. You want to keep that energy flowing in. Anything that's anxiety, they kind of get stuck in that fight or flight response system, and that fight or flight response system turns off their that doesn't necessarily turn off it turns down their digestive system.
Mhm.
So when you're in a fight or flight, all the energy goes into running, fighting, or freezing. It's to survive. So if they tend to be in that high anxiety state, they're really stuck in that fight or flight response system, and which is the adrenaline base. And when that happens, the non-essential systems get turned down to minimal,
Mhm.
which includes the digestive system. And what we want to do then is get that calming system turned on. And our when we're in that, and it's true for us as well as our dogs or our pets, that when that happens, then we we need to retrain the calming system on how to get it turned on because they don't always know how to do that for themselves. So we want to use that gentle touch, or you can look up T touch for
Mhm.
animals, dogs, cats, whatever you have. That's a modality that I'm not certified in, but it's a really wonderful modality that can help trigger that calming system. And those really light, gentle touches is will help trigger and turn on that calming system. And what it does is get the parasympathetic response system engaged, which is the calming system, and that turns down the adrenaline. So we can, and we need to really focus in on getting more and more and more of that calming chemicals going through the body as opposed to the adrenaline. And when that happens, then the digestive system kicks in. So with an animal that has some of these issues, it actually starts from the digestive system that has been turned off, and they don't get the right, they're not pulling out the nutrients. They can eat well, they can, but they're just not digesting all the minerals and all that. It's just not processing. It's not cooking and breaking all those food chemicals, calories down into usable units. So then it puts a lot more wear and tear on the elimination system, the filters, the kidneys, the liver, all the filters, the spleen. Well, the spleen's more blood, but the gallbladder, the filtering system have to work harder because they can't, it's not being uh again broken down to its usable components. So what we want to do then, especially, I would encourage you to do these gentle touches as often as you can, but especially spend 5 minutes before you feed them. Turn up, do some of these tea touches. After they eat, do some of these gentle touches because we want to keep that digestive system turned on. So, again, they don't always know how to do it for themselves. So the more you do it for them throughout the day, do it as often as you can. And what I do is I just switch from petting to tea touches to gentle touches all the time, just as a matter of course. And it's like getting a dose of calming chemicals instead of adrenaline. And especially if they are anxious, then I will reach down and do some calming touches on them and that usually helps pull them out of the anxiety much faster. So I encourage you to do that because again, that's something you can do for them that is it's like getting a little IV drip of good anti-anxiety meds.
Mhm.
So do that for them. And what I will now clear, let me see what I can clear. I'm gonna clear, well, go ahead and clear anxiety. Some dread, clearing that. Unsupported, clearing that. Hmm, Getting the emotion of wishy-washy. Wishy-washy is kind of interesting. I don't get it in animals too often. Sometimes it's absorbed by from our humans, from their humans, but it's a little different than indecision. Uh, Wishy-washy is, and I don't know if this sounds familiar with your dog. It They decide on something and then they go, no. Actually, my golden retriever
Mhm.
has this when she has her two balls that she has to decide on on which one she wants to play on, and she'll pick one up, and yeah, this is the one. And then she starts to walk away from the other one. No, no, I better try this other one. And then she picks up the other one, and yeah, maybe no. And then she goes back to the first one, and she goes back and forth. She's wishy washy. She actually decides for a moment, and then she second guesses herself and go, well, maybe not. I think I want the other one. And she can actually spend a good minute or two trying to decide which one it is. It's very hard. So I don't know if you recognize if that's a behavior you see with your dog.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll clear that. But it causes a little stress because I don't know which one I want to do. So some nervousness, clearing that. So I'm gonna clear the bladder. You said there's bladder stones that they had, so I'm gonna clear the bladder. Oh, there we go. That was a nice shift in energy. So hopefully with the clearance, you should, this is just a quick clearing, but sometimes you do see an improvement even off of a real quick clearing. um, I would encourage a little more deeper one for something that's kind of an ongoing issue like that. We want to keep that energy flowing so that their natural healing abilities can kick in. When we have an autoimmune disease, anything like that, then we just got to keep that energy flowing, and we have to keep working on that calming, those calming chemicals, which is something you can do for them. So I can clear all the chakras and the powers, which is the power system. We want to keep those clear and rebalanced and retuned to as high, a nice high frequency, so that again the energy can flow. Because when they don't feel good, when things are so out of balance, it just the energy gets really sluggish, and then the illness takes over, and it becomes a negative feedback loop. So we need to keep that good energy flowing so that they can feel as good as possible. Any questions?
And you said the tea touch is the tea is in like tea and crumpets or
T is in Texas. There's two.
okay.
T is in
Okay.
Texas. T is in Texas. OUCH.
Okay.
So two T touches, two T's. And there's some really good, there's a couple nice YouTubes on how to do it. So again, and there's
Okay.
some books. It's by the modalities by Linda Tellington Jones. She's got really great website that you can download and look. It just does a little different energy work. And again,
Mhm.
I like recommending things that you can do for them. I mean, I'm happy it's a team effort. When we have a chronic type of a situation like that, it becomes a team effort. It's important to get rid of trapped emotions because those build up and create like a they're actual chemicals that our body creates and
Mhm.
our pets create, and it becomes like a sphere that's like a dam that blocks their natural energy flow, and that creates illnesses. It can create physical issues as well as emotional and behavior issues. So the anxiety can, uh, again, gets too much these chemicals that they can't process it out. And again, it's a negative feedback loop because when they're anxious, there's a whole lot of emotions that are getting, those chemicals are going into their body. They can't eliminate them through their bladder and kidneys because there's too much of them. Their bladder and kidneys are working extra hard trying to eliminate it all, and it just can't keep up. And that's where the weakness becomes because those filters just can't eliminate it all. So when we can help clear those trapped emotions that are stuck in the bladder, that are stuck in the kidneys, then, again, now it kind of breaks up the dam. So now the energy can actually flow instead of looking for avenues to get to places and getting things flowed. So we need to do the energy work of clearing those emotions, rebalancing their energy, clearing their chakra, their power system. So the first and second, third chakras are highly distorted, and we need to get those cleared and rebalanced and retuned. When it's a chronic issue like this, then it's easy to get out of balance again. It's kind of like uh, a Ferrari or something. You can get a tune-up, but they need tune-ups a whole lot more often than my Honda Civic. So that's just how some animals and humans, when they're just a higher energy animal or higher
Mhm.
anxiety animal, that they just need a lot more clearance. Again, they don't know how to turn on that calming system. So that's part of the tune up part. And it's something that you can do.
Great. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Let's see, who else do we have? Michelle, I have Howard picture in front of me. I wish I could share. He's so cute. All these animals are so cute. You'll have to trust me that they're cute. Are you on, Michelle? Oh, there you go. You can see it off of Michelle's photo. Thank you, Michelle. Very good. So how can I help you with Howard? You have to unmute yourself.
Howard is a very, very anxious, I- he wasn't like a rescue or anything, but he's been very high strung. He's already been through classes and kind of helped a little bit. He'll nip at people like when they walk by. If you're petting him, he will growl and stop. He'll growl like for you to continue petting him. I'm concerned around my grandson who is like 10 months old. He's gotten jealous. He's, peeing and pooping on the floor. He's protective, but he's just a scary dog. I'm just scared. And, my son, I'm just trying to see if we can help him out somehow, because I'm just really worried that he's going to nip at the baby.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's a tough one. So let's see what we can do. It is important to talk to a good trainer about that, because there's things you can do and support him to succeed and encourage
He
him.
did go through extensive classes, and like I said, it did help a little bit, like with his commands and stuff, but this
More than commands, it's about retraining him on how to behave in situations, and it's not just command related. It's teaching him what is not, that not everything is scary. So teaching him that the baby is just fine. Teaching him that this is how you get petted without the growling. You teach him and set him up. There's just different techniques you can do that works with them and helping them gain confidence, because when they get anxious like that, it's because they lack confidence. So it's looking for a good trainer that can teach your son and his wife how to build his confidence. I would encourage you to look up, not T-Touch is a good thing too, but clickertraining.com is another good website for training ideas. And they have a lot of really good articles on all sorts of issues, very much like this, that they can probably get some more ideas of what they can do. They can also, there's a lot of resources for practitioners or trainers that are certified under this area, that they might have some really good ideas. So there's some really, really good trainers through it. Karen Pryor is the one that created that modality, and she's got some really good books on the subject as well, on training. She's trained, really big animals, not just dogs, um, whales and dolphins. So, you know, you can't put a choke collar on a on a whale and say, "Hey, don't do that." So, teaching, and and they've now uh, used her modality and methods in most marine parks, zoos. I was just at a place last weekend with my sisters, and I was watching them train a rhinoceros on how to get its feet tended to, trim its hoofs, and get his feet worked on. And they do it little at a time. Don't want to wait till it's super needed. And so they were doing stuff that I do with my dog Bailey and my other dogs and my alpacas. I trained how to do touching a target. And let me tell you, a couple 1,000-pound rhinoceros, you're not gonna make him do something that they don't want to do. As a matter of fact, he kind of went, "I'm done with this," and he just used his rear end and opened the the gate that they had him in, in a little pen. So, but it was really fun to kind of watch them work with this rhinoceros and offering. They weren't in the exact same area, but just on the other side of a fence in the I don't know if it was a vet or whoever it was, the care tender of the rhinoceros was working on its feet well, and it just would put its foot up on the platform. So look up clickertraining.com and that can give you some ideas. But let's go ahead and clear the trapped emotions.
Their groomer won't even attempt to trim his nails at all. They made him come and pick him up.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Again, my dog Bailey is very foot shy. It took me almost the class that I was in was 12 weeks long with him, and it took us about 9 weeks out of the 12 weeks to get him with me working with him almost every single day, getting his feet comfortable to be touched, because that was part of, he had to be, the trainer had to be able to touch and pick up all 4 feet for us to pass our test. And it took me 9 weeks of just real patience and working with him on a daily basis, multiple times during the day, to get him comfortable uh, with me touching his feet, and then getting somebody else comfortable touching his feet. And it was just patience. And he's not great at nail trims, but we're still working on it. And I have trimmed a couple nails. I may get 1 or 2 nails done at a time, but that's okay. I don't have to do every nail in one sitting, but it's just real slow and patient, and a lot of rewards and different things that get him comfortable with it, and just being very, just one little step at a time. Uh, so let me clear anxiety off of Howard, and nervousness, confusion. Unworthy, clearing that. Jealousy, clearing that. Defensiveness, clearing that. Yeah, he's just he lacks confidence, and that comes out then as, when a dog feels defensive, one of their ways of dealing with it is being aggressive. So that's the fight or flight response system. So the T touches are really, really important with him as well. And I think to them what we're going to do before we do it. So that can help with the confusion. If you just grab his feet, he's going to go, "What the heck?" So it's going really slow, really patient, and not just starting at the foot. You go down, start at the shoulder and do teaches down as far as he'll accept it. And if he backs away, then you go back up to where he likes it. And you just slowly build up until he can accept you going down to the feet. But it's just building trust that he doesn't understand what's going on. And if you grab an animal's foot, that's what predators do. So, they try and take out their legs. Your enemy, your threat is going to want to take where if you can't run and walk away, they got you. So we need it's very, very common for animals not to like their feet touched. It is an instinctual thing not to let anybody, animal, and they can see us as a predator. So letting us touch their feet is really a trusting behavior. So we have to build the confidence in us and in themselves that this is a good thing. And I also put, you know, that little trick of give me a high five, or shake my hand, shake is getting them comfortable and make it a trick. It's fun, and they get used to having their foot touched, at least their front feet. So you can turn the clicker training into making it a game. And some of these dogs love having a party in a game. So anything that can shift it from something scary to something fun and pleasurable is what our goal is. So that's where keep having them read articles, find some articles on clickertraining.com. it can really shift that mindset, but it takes some patience. And I also, I keep my animals in pens, especially around if somebody visits with young children. I don't give them freedom. They don't get free rein. Sorry, they get put on a leash. I have control over them. So because now I can see when I read their body language. If they look like they're a little scary, I put them in a pen where they're safe, where the animal feels safe. And I make being in the pen positive. It's not a punishment. It's like a den. Their crates can be, if they're crate trained, it can be a den away from the noisy, scary, fast moving little thing. So I use pens and crates, all sorts of stuff, tools. I use lots of tools so that if a dog needs a timeout because they're in an overwhelmed state, I want to give them a timeout. Let them get a rest. Let them relax and chill. And so then again, you can build that confidence up, and it's learning to listen to them and trying to stop the behavior before it starts. And then you can reward them. Oh, what a good dog. They went into the pen, and you give them a Kong or something that's pleasurable that is a reward. And, they can just relax instead of getting yelled at because they're jealous and they need attention, or, you're trying to do something with the child. So you need to look for different avenues. Okay.
So you think that he needs more than just working with you, like a session with you? Then,
Yeah, it's a combination.
yeah,
Because what happens is I can clear the trapped emotions, but he's going to get more. And when you get triggered by the fight or flight response, is reactionary. And so once he gets triggered, he's not going to remember what I tell him to do.
mhm,
So that's
okay,
why I can clear stuff, but you have to work with it. That's where that caveat I do when I have my presentation. I said, I don't just do aggressive dogs without having a certified trainer on board, because you have to modify the behavior.
okay,
Because when they get triggered, the fight or flight response system kicks on like in a nanosecond, and you need to be able to know how to handle it and redirect it and stop it as quickly as possible, or better yet, recognize it before it's going to happen so you can circumvent it. And that I can't do off of a single phone call, and I'm not there in the moment. That's up to the
right,
owner, and they have to learn, or the pet parent, and they have to learn how to know specifically what's going on with their dog and what will work. And that's where a trainer comes into play. I just threw out a bunch of ideas and suggestions, but a trainer that I would have come into the home so that they can see the situation, see what's going on, and then they can help you learn what to do specifically.
okay,
Yeah,
great,
going to a class is not that's great, but I would hire somebody that comes into the home so that they can
mhm,
create a training methods or training, a few things that they can do in the home for your pet that is specific to what's going on. They can say, oh yeah, you need to put your dog in, set up a pen over here, or whatever it is. They'll have very specific things that you need to do. And that's the
okay,
type of trainer you want to find too,
mhm,
that can come into the home. And I would actually look for one that is specifically expert at aggressive issues, anxiety, high anxiety, that issues. Not just because not every trainer can do that work. You need a specialist.
mhm, okay,
All right.
thank you.
But again, start at the clicker training. And they got a list of practitioners off of it. Um, and they can also I mean, there's some really good articles, so they can give you some ideas right away. Okay,
Good.
so Joy, I see you have your dog. Do you want a quick reading?
This is Roxy. She's been here almost 7 weeks. She's a rescue.
Uh-huh.
She's acting pretty well, but I think she's got some insecurity and maybe some skin issues and some allergies. Not serious, but not perfect.
Okay. And are you fostering her?
No, I'm adopting her.
You're adopting her. Okay. So, oh, good. Okay, so that's important. We can let her know that you're her forever person, if that's a true statement.
Right.
Yeah, okay, good. That's important because they tend to be uh uh confused when they get to a new home. So it's Roxy, Roxy. Oh, there's a nice shift, just kind of scanning. And I don't know if you see her eyes are already kind of softening.
So
Uh,
getting sleepy.
It's a good girl. So I'm just kind of doing gentle energy as I'm scanning, and her eyes are getting just drooping here. It's nice seeing it live. So I'm releasing more confusion. And now she's licking. Did you see that licking? Those are those indications we're talking about when they get released. Gonna release some anxiety for that. Unsupported, probably from her previous life, clearing that. Abandonment, clearing that. Some depression, clearing that.
We think her original lady died, but then there was some bouncing around for several months and a scary time when she got driven for several hours and then just dropped off at a shelter.
Okay. I was just before you mentioned, I just was gonna say, did she lose a person? Because I felt some grief. So I'm gonna release that,
Yeah.
which is also part of the confusion. So sadness, gonna release that. Again, there's the licking. We like to see that. And sometimes they will yawn. There's your kiss. Good. Good. Oh, I feel like I'm getting teary. So that's a nice sign that it's not necessarily tears of sadness. It's kind of a tears of relief. What a sweet energy, sweet soul.
Mhm.
Um, so I think the tea touch again will help with the skin. Because she needs some of that calming chemicals coming in. That's a very common thing. The skin is the largest organ, so when they get an overabundance of emotions, negative emotions that they're trying to release and expel out, then that comes out the skin sometimes. And again, when they're in that anxious state, they're not digesting their food all the way. So again, if they can't eliminate it out through the kidneys and liver, then some of those food chemicals kind of build up like a toxin and comes out as skin allergies. So I'll do as much of the tea touches as you can on her. That will help a lot. Again, it'll help get her more. She's already very bonded with you, but it'll just help all around. But she really accepted the energy nicely. Um, I'm just kind of listening if she has something. She liked it. She's gonna be a little. Is she nervous in the car?
Um, doesn't seem too nervous, but if we go on long road trips, she seems like she's sleepy, but doesn't let her head lay down.
Yeah.
And I talked to another communicator, talked to her, and she said, well, I just want to make sure I'm not worried where I'm going to get dropped off.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Exactly. It's a kind of a trigger, it's a PTSD. So this is where you can practice the topic about thinking. You just think to her that you're what you're doing. We're going for a ride. You're gonna stay with me the whole time, then we're driving home. Or
yeah,
we're
we've been
staying
doing a lot
together.
of errands and going for walks in the park, driving to the park and back. And
Yep.
so I think
So
she's getting this.
just keep thinking to her exactly what you're doing, especially if you see that anxiety come in the car, and you just think to her, just matter of fact, it's no big deal. You just, this is what we're doing. But again, think it to her as opposed to saying it out loud. Sometimes I say it out loud just to get the words right that I want to think to it, but then I repeat it just mind to mind. They hear that better. Um, the last thing I want to do with her is tell her, not only that this is her forever home and person, but she's safe and secure here. There's another shift. She kind of had a job before, so what's her job? Just love you. I'm gonna just tell her her job is to love you, which she obviously is doing.
Yeah, she's a kisser.
So a little bit of the kissing is a little anxiety too,
Yeah,
that I saw just now.
thank you.
So yeah, I think she's pretty good to go. Is there anything else you want to ask Roxy? Mm,
No, I think we're okay.
I was asking Roxy.
Oh, see any questions?
Um, I'm not sure. I heard bird and cat. Is something about a bird and cat. Is it outside? Yes.
Birds outside. I don't see any cats in my yard usually.
Oh, I wasn't quite sure it was if it was a cat or a bird. Is the bird bothering you? No. Scaring you? No. Oh, she said it's just kind of fun to watch. Okay. So maybe she's enjoying watching some of the birds outside.
Yeah,
Sometimes smaller dogs are scared of birds, so I was wondering if that was it. Smaller dogs, because large birds can be a predator to them, so sometimes they're scared of birds. But she's
there's
enjoying.
2 finch feeders and a bird bath, so there's, especially this time of year, a lot of
Okay, so
bird
so
activity.
that was probably it, that she kind of enjoys watching the
Yeah,
birds.
you can
Okay.
see her, you know.
Okay, so a lot of times when I ask if they have anything to say, it's not a bad thing. It's just like, I like this. So she's enjoying the birds, watching the birds. Okay,
Great, thanks.
thank you for sharing. Well, we're at the top of the hour. Um, Dulcie, Sam, I'll work on Dulcie later if that's okay with you. Um, so we can go on into the healing circle, but I will take care of Dulcie. I know
Okay.
Dulcie. Dulcie and I know each other. We can do her clear, no problem. All righty. So again, I apologize that I didn't have my. I'll work on trying to figure out why Zoom isn't seeing my screen, and we'll try and have that fixed for next time. So I'm going to stop the recording.